Good morning children, Jai Gurudev. Today we are going to do chapter 10 of science, motion and measurement of distances. You have already learnt about various means of transport which you use to go from one place to another, like your cycle, auto rickshaws, trains, etc. But long ago, people used to travel from one place to another by walking. Later, they started moving on animal back. For transport through water, boats were used to be made from ancient times. But that time the boats were made of simple logs of wood which were made hollow from inside, from in between, and a cavity was made, and people used to sit there and the boat used to move along the current of water. Later, people learned to put different pieces of wood and give a shape to boat which used to be similar to the animals living in water. You have already learned about the streamlined shape of those animals. Invention of wheel was one of the most important invention. It made a great change in the modes of transport. The design of wheel was improved over thousands of years. Later, the animals were used to pull carts that moved on wheels. The invention of steam engine led to the new developments in the means of transport. The transport became faster with steam engine. Railroads were made for steam engine driven carriages and wagons. Nowadays you see trains, but earlier there were only one or two wagons joined to steam engine. Only rich people used to travel through that. Later, automobiles were invented and motor cars, trucks, buses all made the transport even faster. Motorized boats and ships were used as a means of transport on water. Later came aeroplanes, electric trains, monorails, supersonic aeroplanes, and even spacecrafts. These all are means of transport. And it is now very easy to cover long distances in short time. But how far are we traveling? Also, if we are traveling from one place to another, which means of transport shall we take? Like suppose you have to go to America. You need to travel by plane, because if you go by ship, it will take around more than 25 days, and if you go by road, you will have to cross many different countries. But then how will you cross the sea in between? Even for nearby distances, we need to know whether we can go walking or take a cycle or a bike or a car. Not only distance, we need to measure the objects as well. You measure your height. Measurements are needed to buy dresses. Suppose you need some furniture for your room, you need to measure it. Which size is going to fit inside? So measurements are very important. Even while purchasing a house, its measurements decides its price. The list is endless. In earlier times, the body parts were used to measure a thing, as seen here. Cubit is the length from your elbow to the tip of your finger. Foot is the measure from the tip of your toe to your heel. And similarly, handspan is the distance from the tip of your thumb to the tip of your little finger when you spread your palm. But these measurements are not same for everyone. Your handspan will not be same as your father's handspan. So these ways were not same for all. The use of one of these methods you can still see. Like you must have seen the florist, the one who sells the garland made of flowers, he still uses the length, his cubit or arm, to measure the length of the garland which he is going to sell. Because the measurement changed from person to person, there was a need to have a standard unit of measurement. Unit means that quantity to which an unknown quantity is compared. So in the year 1790, French, they created a standard unit of measurement called the metric system, and it was accepted all over the world. The system of units now used are known as International System of Units or SI unit. SI means System International. SI unit of length is meter. It means that to measure length, the SI unit decided was meter. Even your scale is decided as per the standard units. You can check any scale from anywhere in the world. You will find it to be exactly the same in measure as your scale because they are made following the same standards of measurement. Centimeter and millimeter are the smaller units of length, where 1 meter equals to 100 centimeter equals to 1000 millimeter. These are smaller units, so they cannot be used for measuring larger distances such as distance between two countries or two states. Hence, larger units of length, that is kilometer, is used. This picture shows you how to measure the length of an object with the help of a scale. You can see here a pencil is being measured. One end of the pencil is kept at 0 and you have to read the other end coincides with which number. And while reading, the position of your eye also should be accurate. Otherwise, the reading will go wrong. Here, you can see this is the correct position of the eye. So, your eye should be perpendicularly above the other end of the object to take the correct reading. You can also take the readings in case your scale is broken. As you can see here, put your object in between any two whole numbers, note down both the numbers and subtract, and you will get the length of your object. Like in this one, you can see here that one end of the object is at 6 and the other end of the object is at 13. So 13 minus 6 gives you 7. So 7 centimeter is the length of this object. You must have seen tailors using a measuring tape because you cannot use a scale to measure curved surfaces. So for curved surfaces, measuring tapes are used which can easily be bent. But suppose you have to measure a curved line. So what you can do is you can take a thread, put it all along the line, and then take that thread, put it on a scale and measure that thread. The length of that thread will be equal to the length of the curved line. You must have seen many things moving around you. You call them moving because you see them changing their position. But sometimes in some objects like fan, sewing machine, clock, washing machine, etc., only some parts in the objects are moving, not the whole thing. The objects that move are said to be in motion, like vehicles, animals, birds, insects, etc. You would call them moving objects. There are different types of motion. But what is motion? Motion is the change of position of an object with time. So let's see now different types of motions. You must have seen march past of soldiers or a car moving in a straight line. If you slide down a slide or when an object falls down on the earth due to gravity, all these objects are seen moving in a straight line. This type of motion is called rectilinear motion, and when the objects move in a straight line, that motion is rectilinear motion. Talking about the second type of motion, you must have seen the blades of a fan moving. Also, the hands of a clock, they go round in circles. If you have ever whirled around a ball like this, or if you have ever visited a merry-go-round, or if we talk about the motion of satellite around the earth, all these objects are seen moving in circles. So this type of motion is called circular motion. And in circular motion, the distance of the object from the center always remains the same. Can you think of more such examples where you see circular motion? Talking about the third type of motion, you must have seen the pendulum of a clock. It moves back and forth again and again. Similarly, be it the motion of a swing which goes front and back, or a rocking chair, or the earth moving around the sun. In all these examples, the motion is repeated again and again in a specific interval of time, and that too around a fixed place. Such a motion is called periodic motion because it repeats itself after a certain period of time. Sometimes an object can exhibit more than one type of motion at a time. For example, your bicycle, the wheels of the bicycles show circular motion, and because they move in a straight line, they also show rectilinear motion.